good evening, good day, or good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. Hi, how are you? Today, we are going to be doing another another episode of the BookLook series. And if you are unaware of what this series is on my channel, it is a series where we combine two of my favorite things in the world, makeup and literature, and we take a book from my library, little collection in my closet over there, and admittedly a lot of them are children's books or preteen books or things that I read from the age of 8 to 13, and we talk about the synopsis of the book, the summary, and we make an eye look based on the colors in the cover of the book. And the book that we are going to be talking about today is actually like a more grown-up book versus all the other ones we've been doing since the beginning. It's called All the Light We Cannot See. It is a novel by Anthony Doerr, or Doerr. I might be saying his last name incorrectly, and I'm very sorry. I understand what that's like. I'm very sorry that I couldn't say it correctly, and I'm sorry to let you down, Anthony. This is a way thicker book than the previous books we've discussed in this series, and so for that reason it might be a bit of a longer video than normal because I'm trying to tell you guys the plot of this book, and I will let you know that I'm going to give you spoilers for this book. So if you want to read it, I will give a spoiler warning when I'm about to spoil how it ends. If you don't want to read it, then just keep on listening. I just primed my eyes with the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion in the shade Original. I am going to get started. So the cover of this book has dark blue, kind of a lighter blue teal shade, some white, various shades of blue and black. I'm not going to include the yellow lettering of the author's name, but I will include the white lettering for the shade of the title. So this book follows three main characters. I'm going into my ColourPop Mar palette using trying not to blind you guys with the mirror, using this sea green shade called Highway. It's almost a turquoisey blue, which matches, oh my gosh, this shade here as best that I can match it. One of the three main characters in the book is named Marie-Laure, and Marie-Laure lives in Paris with her father. He's a locksmith at the Museum of Natural History. At some point in time, Marie goes blind, and her father teaches her to navigate the neighborhood that they live in by making a scale model of the neighborhood. This takes place during World War II. So the museum that Marie-Laure's dad works at has this really legendary diamond thing called the Sea of Flames, and because there is now a threat of German occupation in Paris, the director of the museum is worried that that diamond is going to be taken by the Germans. The museum makes 3 other copies of this diamond and disperses it within its workers, so if Paris gets occupied, they can go off with the diamond and hopefully make sure that the Nazis don't get it. Of course, Marie-Laure's father is one of the men who gets one of the diamonds, and he has no idea whether it's the real one or the fake one. When Marie-Laure reaches the age of 12, the threat of German occupation in Paris is too strong to ignore, so they flee to Saint-Malo, which is Marie-Laure's great-uncle Etienne's house. So she moves in with her great-uncle Etienne and his housekeeper, Madame Manic. So I'm going to be reaching into several palettes, so I'm pulling out the Blue Moon palette. So Marie-Laure's father builds another scale model replica of the neighborhood of St. Malo for Marie to navigate, and ends up actually hiding that either fake or real diamond in the little model replica of Etienne's house, in that neighborhood model replica. So I'm taking this dark blue shade clued in right there. In December, Marie-Laure's father gets called back to Paris, and as he's going back to Paris, he gets arrested. And he gets sent to a prison camp in Germany, and eventually dies, which is really sad. He was a nice character. He was a nice guy. So Madame Manic and Etienne at this point decide to organize the townspeople into a resistance against the German occupation, because now there's German occupation in Saint Malo. And Etienne has this really powerful radio transmitter that he used to use to transmit different messages and things like that, and he uses it to broadcast codes. Madame Manic eventually dies in 1942, but Etienne and Marie-Laure continue with this very hopeful resistance. Bringing Clued in onto the other side now, and then I'm going to blend it out while I talk to you guys. So, from there, we switch to a different character of the story. And this is a boy named Werner Pfennig. I think I'm saying his last name wrong, but he grows up in an orphanage with his sister Jutta. And they grow up in Germany. So Werner is like a prodigy with science and technology and math. And it's very clear from a very young age that he's just incredible at all this stuff. Jetta and Werner end up finding an abandoned radio, and Werner somehow, I don't remember exactly how, but somehow ends up teaching himself how to fix it up. And after he fixes it up, he ends up tuning into a French radio program where a man talks about all these different scientific concepts, and it really interests him. Going into my Elf Retro Paradise palette, into the shade Royal. At 14, Werner's talent is starting to get recognized, and it's attracting a lot of attention. And eventually, he's accepted into a specialized training school. And he's really excited about this. Jutta, who is against the Nazi movement, is very worried that this school is going to end up corrupting Werner and turn him into a Nazi. When Werner gets to school, he is quickly like any of that hopefulness that he had is just dashed when he sees cruelty and brutality of the school, of the people there. He ends up witnessing one of his closest friends at that school being beaten until he received severe brain damage. From that point on, he kind of lost that hopefulness that he had. At 16, Werner's age was falsified, and he was made to serve on the front lines in Germany, for Germany. And he didn't actually do a ton of the fighting. He spent the next 2 years tracking down civilians who used illegal radios in German-occupied territories. And he did that with a group of soldiers, and one of them was a friend named Volkheimer. Werner, he felt very conflicted morally about what he was doing, because on the one hand, he wanted to be a good person and serve his country, and on the other hand, he witnessed a lot of really wrong things. And eventually, there are some things that just hit his breaking point, and he becomes completely horrified when one of his fellow soldiers kills a woman and a little kid. In 1944, he ends up being sent to Saint Malo, and he and his soldiers are there, and he sees that that same French man that broadcasted those scientific concepts with that radio that he fixed up when he was very little is now using that radio to broadcast secret codes. And that man is Etienne. And Werner is very conflicted about this. He doesn't quite know what to do because, he grew up listening to that man, and he loved listening to everything and learning from him, so he was conflicted about whether he should turn him in or not, and he was conflicted because he witnessed all the brutal things that his fellow soldiers had done, and he just didn't know what to do, so he ended up keeping it to himself, but all the while he kept spying on the house that the signal was broadcasted from, which is Etienne's house, and ended up seeing Marie-Laure. This is where we switch. Okay, I'm going into this black shade right here, Nightlife, while I talk. So the next character that we meet is Von Rumpel, and he is a Nazi official who has been tasked with seizing and cataloging jewels from German-occupied territories. Now, Von Rumpel does a great job at this, but he is not able to find that legendary jewel that Marie-Laure's father had, or had a copy of, the Sea of Flames. And he becomes really obsessed with it. And part of the reason that he becomes super obsessed with it, besides the fact that he can't find it, is because he is diagnosed with cancer, and he gets the crazy notion in his head that if he finds the diamond, it will give him immortality. It takes him 4 years of tracking down the stone. He ends up finding all the other 3 people who had potential copies or the real thing, and they were copies, they weren't the real thing, so obviously Marie-Laure's dad had the real one, and he can't find it. So eventually he's able to trace it to Marie-Laure's uncle's house in St. Malo. So this is where I am going to issue a spoiler warning. If you would not like this book spoiled for you, if you're actually interested in it, and if you want to see how it turns out, click off this video. In August of 1944, which is when all of this comes to a head, Allied forces start to bomb St. Malo while Werner is there, while Marie-Laure is there, and while Von Rumpel is there. So Von Rumpel is obviously our villain, if you couldn't tell. Werner ends up getting trapped in a cellar when a building collapses on him because of the bombs. Everyone's affected by it. Marie-Laure is alone in her house, doesn't really know what to do. Von Rumpel takes that opportunity because he's tracked down the diamond to her house to go and search the house for it. And when Marie-Laure hears Von Rumpel enter the house, she hides in the attic with Etienne's radio and the diamond and locks it. She ends up staying in there for 4 days. Going into this shade Sea Salt right here. So she's in there for 4 days, and the whole time she's still broadcasting. And Werner, who's trapped in the cellar, also for those 4 days can hear it. He's getting the broadcasts. He's hearing what she's sending out. And he's worried about her. So Werner eventually, after those 4 days are up, is able to escape the cellar. I don't remember how he does it. And goes rushing into the house to make sure that Marie-Laure is okay. And when he gets there, he sees Von Rumpel. And Von Rumpel, thinking that Werner is after the diamond, threatens and attacks him. Werner ends up shooting and killing Von Rumpel, and Marie-Laure comes out of hiding. Werner helps her get to safety, but before they leave, Marie-Laure hides the diamond in this hidden grotto and gives Werner the key. They eventually end up going their separate ways, with Marie-Laure reuniting with her great-uncle Etienne in Paris and living there, and Werner ends up being imprisoned, and he gets really sick. And a few months later, while he's delirious from fever, he accidentally steps on a landmine and dies. 30 years later, in 1974, Jutta, the sister of Werner, ends up getting Werner's possessions sent to her by that friend, Volkheimer. And Jutta follows the clues and ends up meeting Marie-Laure. And Marie-Laure is now a scientist and a mom. So from there, Marie-Laure just ends up wondering if Werner ever went back to the grotto to pick up the diamond. And in the end, it lands on the most likely option was that the diamond was left in the grotto to be washed away into the sea. And that's where it ends. I hate the ending. I know that that was very heavy in the talking points. I don't normally have such a filled plot book, but this is a very thick book, so, you know, I'm now going to take a flat eyeliner brush and go back into that black shade Nightlife. This one right here. So I like the book. I do. It's a winner of a Pulitzer Prize, so obviously it's a great book. If you're a fan of World War II books, I would recommend it. And if you're not, I would still recommend it to you. Okay, you guys, this is the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed me talking about this book. If you would like to read it, absolutely go ahead, pick it up. It's a wonderful book. I hope you just all have a wonderful day, and usually I just end it there, but I just also want to say that I really appreciate you guys for watching my videos, and for my subscribers for subscribing, and for just supporting me. I know that I'm small. I know I don't have all the filming equipment or the editing programs or a specific room to film in or new makeup constantly to review. But you still watch and you still support, and I appreciate that so much. I appreciate you guys, and I just hope that you have a great night or day. For me, it's 3 a.m. Love you all. Goodbye.